I used to think calm children were just born that way, that some kids were simply wired for patience, for sitting still at the table, for not grabbing food the moment it appeared. Then I started researching Japanese mealtime culture, and one small ritual changed my understanding of where that calm comes from. It happens every day, in homes and school cafeterias across Japan. A child sits down at the table. The food is ready. Instead of immediately reaching for chopsticks, they pause. They press their palms together lightly, bow their head, and say two words, itadakimasu. It takes about 3 seconds. 3 seconds. And yet researchers studying childhood emotional development say this tiny pause carries more developmental weight than most parents realize. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly what itadakimasu does to a child's nervous system, and you will have one small thing you can bring to your own dinner table tonight. No Japanese background required. Let me start with what the word actually means, because the translation matters more than you might expect. Itadakimasu comes from the verb itadaku, which means to humbly receive. It is spoken before eating as an acknowledgement of gratitude to the farmers who grew the food, the animals who gave their lives, and the person who cooked. Saying itadakimasu means recognizing that you are about to receive something that cost another living thing something. That is a concept most adults struggle to hold for more than a passing moment. Japanese children begin sitting with it by age 3. When I first read about this, I assumed it was a cultural politeness ritual, meaningful in context but mostly symbolic. The neuroscience told a different story. A 2019 review published in the journal Appetite, which examined pre-meal rituals across multiple cultures, found that even a brief deliberate pause before eating consistently lowered the pace of consumption, reduced impulsive food-seeking behavior, and increased the felt satisfaction people reported from meals. The researchers did not design the study around itadakimasu specifically, but the mechanism they identified maps almost exactly onto what that small bow does. The pause activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the branch associated with rest, digestion, and emotional regulation. It signals to the body, slow down, you are safe, this is a moment of receiving. For a toddler who has been in motion all day, playing, wanting, getting frustrated, bouncing between one big feeling and the next, that 3-second invitation to stillness is genuinely regulating. Not in a forced, obedient way, physiologically. Most people assume the calm seen at Japanese mealtimes comes from strict expectations. The structure, the rule about not speaking with a full mouth, the expectation of sitting correctly. And yes, those things exist in Japanese homes. But they come after the bow, not before it. The bow is the reset. Everything that follows grows from that one small pause. There is a word in Japanese child rearing that explains why this ritual holds its shape across a lifetime: shitsuke, usually translated as discipline, but that loses something. Shitsuke originally referred to the basting stitches a tailor uses to hold fabric in place before the final sewing, temporary threads that guide the garment into its proper form while it is still being shaped. In parenting, shitsuke means the small repeated practices that hold a child's developing character in the right form while they are still growing into themselves. Itadakimasu is shitsuke, not teaching a child to perform gratitude, threading the habit of pausing before receiving again and again until the pause becomes part of who they are. That distinction matters. In many Western parenting conversations, gratitude is something to explain. We tell children to say thank you. We ask them how it felt to receive a gift. We have conversations about what it means to be lucky. Itadakimasu does not explain gratitude, it enacts it. 3 seconds, hands together, every single meal. By the time a Japanese child is 8 years old, they have enacted that gesture thousands of times. The neural pathway is not just laid, it is automatic. A 2021 developmental study at Osaka University tracked children ages 4 through 9 and found that those who consistently performed pre-meal rituals showed significantly stronger impulse control scores than peers who did not. And not only at the table. The effect appeared in unrelated settings: waiting in line, sharing toys, tolerating delay. The researchers called this generalized inhibitory control. The pause, it turns out, is practicing something that transfers far beyond mealtimes. What struck me most about that finding was the size of the input. Not a mindfulness curriculum, not a structured intervention, not a carefully designed program. Just pressing your palms together and saying 2 words before you eat. Done consistently, for years. And yet the data kept pointing to it. There is also a concept in Japanese child psychology called amae, a warm, trusting dependence that researchers describe as the emotional bedrock of secure attachment. Amae is the feeling of being held in the goodwill of someone who cares for you, of being safe inside a web of connection. When a child says itadakimasu, they are not only acknowledging food, they are acknowledging the web of care and effort that brought this moment to them. They are feeling themselves inside that web. For a 3-year-old, this is not a philosophical insight. It is a felt experience in the body, warmth, belonging, being tended to. Researchers who study secure attachment find consistently that small, repeated rituals, predictable, gentle, shared, are among the most powerful tools for reinforcing that felt sense of safety in young children. Not long explanations, not patient conversations, rituals. Has your family ever had a moment like this at mealtimes? A small ritual, even an informal one, that changed the feeling of sitting down together? I would genuinely love to know. Share it in the comments. Something worth naming honestly. We tend to underestimate ritual in modern parenting because rituals can feel arbitrary. Why these specific words? Why the bow? We want our children to understand things before we ask them to do them. But developmental psychology is increasingly clear that the body learns through repetition before the mind understands through explanation. Ritual is a body-first curriculum. Itadakimasu does not teach gratitude and presence because a child conceptually grasps them. It teaches them because a child rehearses them, meal after meal, year after year. If you have ever tried explaining gratitude to a 5-year-old and watched the words bounce off entirely, that is probably why. In practice, for a family outside Japan, the adaptation is simple. You do not need to say itadakimasu, though some families find the word itself meaningful to borrow. What you need is a pause, a gesture, and a phrase, something brief, calm, and consistent. We are grateful for this food. Before we eat, we say thank you. Even a moment of quiet with hands resting still on the table. The specific words matter less than the repeatable intentional break, the shift from the motion of arriving to the stillness of receiving. Start when your child is very young. Before age 2, a child will not understand the meaning. They will understand the pattern. They will notice that everyone at the table goes still for a moment. That stillness becomes familiar. By 3 or 4, they begin doing it without prompting. What makes this feel different from simply adding a new rule? When a parent models the pause sincerely, not as a command but as a genuine moment of their own stillness and gratitude, children absorb that. They absorb the feeling behind it, not just the form. That is what shitsuke is for. The basting stitch holds the shape while the person grows into themselves. What I keep returning to, the more I explore Japanese parenting philosophy, is how much trust it places in small things. A bow before eating, a pause before speaking, a moment of stillness before receiving. These are the basting stitches. Done with care, day after day, they shape something that lasts. If that resonates, the next video on this channel goes deeper into a Japanese practice called mimamoru, the art of watching over a child without stepping in, and what research says it builds in children who are learning to sit with difficulty on their own. I think you will find something in it. If this gave you one thing to try tonight, consider sharing it with another parent. And I will see you in the next one.